It's another presentation on the debate topic that students are considering on marine natural resources. There are a number of interesting aspects of this topic, and I'm going to discuss some in this. This is titled Enriching Marine Ecosystems with Refrigerators, Washing Machines, Subway Cars, Oil Rigs, and Other Junk. One of the things that's exciting about the marine natural resources topic is that the oceans, the rivers, the streams are full of life, teeming with life. Not everywhere, but in most places. It's an incredibly diverse topic with tremendous potential. Unlike outer space is beautiful, but no living things out there, right? The most exciting thing in outer space, according to former astronauts, is looking back at Earth. In fact, the environmental movement sort of gets its start with this little blue marble view that we're all on this small planet. Of course, the Earth only looks like this when you're not on the Earth. But one of the advantages of studying the Earth from space or on Earth is that the oceans are the biggest part of it. 75% of the Earth is oceans. We have tremendous lakes and streams. So the marine natural resources topic is really the greatest resource. The final frontier, many argue, is not in space, but under the sea. There's a tremendous range of economic opportunities, environmental opportunities, ecosystem knowledge, research. I'm in Puget Sound, and there's significant concern that Puget Sound is having pollution problems because of the runoff, non-point source pollution that comes from people fertilizing their lawns and watering their lawns and all sorts of other flows into the sound. And so how do you clean Puget Sound? It doesn't have a lot of back and forth as the ocean does in terms of a clearing process. One proposal is mussels. Mussels, if you've had mussels, are little black things that grow on the side of piers and in the ocean. The idea, though, is to raise mussels and use the natural filtering process of mussels to pull organic material out of Puget Sound. So I talked to an entrepreneur who was building these platforms and would fill them with ocean and immerse them in the water. And over time, these would act as filters to clean the ocean. He was unable to get a permit for his commercial operation, unfortunately, or it's seemingly unfortunately, but this is an area to investigate. Is it the case that commercial mussel growers could filter Puget Sound and other waterways by raising plants or raising mussels? What is it? A sea creature, a shellfish in the ocean. Here's another experiment with mussels in a field station with students involved trying to figure out how to clean the water using natural systems to do it. Another area of interesting research are gooey ducks. Gooey ducks burrow into the sand here in Puget Sound, and there's a number of people that are harvesting gooey ducks, commercial gooey duck harvesters. These sell for a lot of money in Japan and elsewhere. So for a commercial topic, the idea of more gooey duck farms or developing gooey duck ecosystems, it's another kind of unexpected area. If you're not from this area, these things probably look pretty weird. And as so often in very weird things, they sell them in Japan rather than in the US. They're about $1,000 a piece or more. Here's a John Stossel segment, Government versus Entrepreneurs, and one of the people profiled are oyster farmers, Greg Garrett and Shelley Goodman, on the government's intrusion in their business ventures. These are commercial entrepreneurs trying to develop oyster farms. The challenge is, unlike land that is privately owned, in areas along the coastal ways, that's owned by the state and federal government, or at least managed by them. Without private ownership, you have these ongoing disputes over what's appropriate and inappropriate for development. So there are litigation and legal issues over fisheries, over growing shellfish, oysters, and other things that seem to be endless. Here they are with their oysters. Here's an article, Salmon Hatcheries are what we use in Washington State to try and restore the salmon population. Unfortunately, salmon hatcheries have been horrendously managed. They've been I'm arguing that they've been poorly managed for decades. very expensive. Very few salmon survive. People complain that the wrong salmon are let out, one thing and another. So here's a proposal to let private firms get involved in salmon hatchery. And here is the Washington Federation of State Employees with their state lobbyists trying to stop the turnover of these hatcheries to firms that could manage them better. Again, you're welcome to debate both sides of this. These guys are organizing for power, is their logo there, but why not organize for prosperity, have a decentralized market system that tries to create wealth as we have elsewhere in the economy. So for allowing ecosystems to develop more readily in the ocean, we dump subway cars out in the ocean. This is off North Carolina or South Carolina. Basically, the New York City subway cars, when they get old, they're taken out into the water and dumped. The reason they do this is not to just get rid of the subway cars, but also because the view is that once you have these objects in the ocean, whether they're washing machines, dishwashers, whatever, they're on the bottom, and that's a place for the fish to go. You can see the subway, the fish can go in the subway. The fish need a place to hide. Plants begin growing on it, and basically you build a rich, diverse ecosystem by dumping solid objects on the ground in places where there aren't naturally rocks. Where there's rocks, you have these ecosystems develop, but in other areas there's not much. So there's been articles in the paper, the Wall Street Journal, about Louisiana, where people secretly go out at night and dump washing machines and dryers that they buy used 2 or 3, 4 miles off the coast in Louisiana. Because there's not much living, but if they can dump this stuff on the bottom and track where it is and not let anyone else know, they go back in a year and they can catch fish around the stuff that they've dumped. So it's an interesting idea that you're dumping junk on the bottom of the ocean on the coastlines, and that allows fish to develop, commercial operations, even oil rigs. Where the oil rigs are, that attracts fish. So there have been proposals to keep oil rigs even when the oil's gone so that the fish can develop in those areas. So this is the whole field of artificial reefs. You can read online about the different ways. There's people that are making commercial products to create artificial reefs. There's also people just dumping junk out there. And you can see the pluses and negatives of this and the limits on what can and can't be junked. So various gadgets dumped on the ocean floor. This looks like some pottery things, but it's designed in a way that plants flourish in it, and then the fish come and live in that. Here is part of an old boat or machinery that's dumped sideways, and then divers know to go down there. My father used to dive in Puget Sound when I was a kid, and he knew that in places where there were washing machines and junk in the water, he could go in there, and that's where you'd find an octopus or some other creature. Not that he caught octopuses for consumption. I don't remember eating them when I was a kid. You can also make a coral reef of fake people. So here's a coral reef from somewhere in Mexico where someone has built like a little city down there. That would be good for fish and probably good for attracting tourists. I don't know if you consider people skin diving part of your natural marine ecosystem, but again, you build it and they will come.